Hi, and welcome everyone to Whole Soul School and Foundation's first Fireside Chats for December 2019. My name is Marie Mohler, and I am an author, intuitive, and co-founder of Whole Soul School and Foundation. I am here with my co-host and co-founder, Lacy Frazer, who is a clinical psychologist by training and a practicing life and leadership coach and consultant today. We want to first remind our listeners that the mission of Whole Soul School and Foundation is to educate, enrich, integrate, and liberate the heart and soul in people worldwide. We also support projects and products that are specifically designed to educate, empower, and inspire people whose lives have been impacted by incarceration. We hold a core belief that the conversation is the education. And we're dedicated to sharing this inspiration and these important conversations with our audience here at Whole Soul School and Foundation to ignite your passion, your freedom, your purpose, empowerment, creativity, and personal transformation, especially as we turn the corner and move into the new energies and possibilities in 2020. So I first want to welcome Lacy to this conversation today. Hi, Lacy.
Hi, Marie. It's awesome to be here.
I know. It's awesome to be back in our Fireside Chats. December is bringing through a lot of energy, and we have a lot of good insights to share today. So I want to welcome our listeners into this powerful conversation today. And I just wanted to review that this month we are going to continue our focus on the theme, integration, and weaving the greater picture together of the hero's journey of personal transformation, authenticity, empowerment, and spiritual awakening. To do that today, we're going to borrow some insights from Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, a practical guide to the fulfillment of your dreams.
Yes.
And it's a rich and deep book to read. But we aim today, Lacy, right, to provide some of the core concepts just to make this material accessible to our listeners for you to be able to apply it in your life. So if you desire a deeper dive than just this kind of skimming the surface of some of these concepts, we recommend that you get the book and spend some time with these deep details in the way that, Deepak Chopra always provides for all of us. He invites you into the story of those energies and insights in a pretty unique way. And so, so we invite everybody to this conversation today. And Lacy, let's get into it. Let's talk about these key spiritual laws and insights.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, at the risk of reiterating some of your beautiful introduction, Marie, I just want to say that, it's really exciting that we're in our last month of the first year of Whole Soul School and Foundation.
Our podcasts and videos.
Right.
Exactly.
And we're looking forward to jumping into 2020 with all the energies of 2020 and designing a new year with new themes and new information for our listeners. So very excited to do that.
Yeah.
And today, I'm also really excited to talk about the 7 spiritual laws of success. We've worked a little bit with Michael Beckwith and his levels of consciousness. We worked last month with James Redfield and the 9 insights of the 9 Celestine insights. And so I think the 7 spiritual laws of success are a great place to round out our year. And I definitely would recommend that our listeners either purchase the book or sort of research it online. There is also a DVD in which Deepak Chopra and I believe it or not, Olivia Newton-John, they sit together and they discuss these 7 spiritual laws on this DVD. It's a little dated, but the material is rich and the messages are timeless, as we know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make our listeners aware that exists also.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that. I didn't know that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So the essential theme of this book is obviously to outline 7 spiritual laws of success. And of course,
Right.
Deepak Chopra in all his deep wisdom does a wonderful job of guiding us on a practical course to understand the universe and understand that we live in this field of energy that we've been talking about in many ways and many forms over the last year, and which he does very well here as well. And he reminds us that we live in this energetic universe, and there's just an incredible amount of potential there for us to create a new reality for ourselves and to fulfill our dreams. And these laws do a wonderful job of sort of outlining, to some degree, a kind of how to work with the energy of the universe. And so I think it's important to just sort of first touch on what he means by the word law. And he does say in here, he says, law is the process by which the unmanifest becomes manifest. It's the process by which the observer becomes the observed, right? It's the process through which the dreamer manifests the dream. I just think that's beautiful. And we do that we interact with the universe, and we make manifest from the unmanifest using both our mind, our body, and our spirit. And he talks about that.
Right.
And the physical laws of the universe are actually, in his words, the whole process of divinity in motion, which is really beautiful, or also known as consciousness in motion. So when we understand these laws that we're going to review today, and we apply these laws, and we'll review a little bit of how to apply them, anything we want can be created. Because the same laws that nature uses to create a forest, a galaxy, a star, and even the human body can also bring about the fulfillment of our deepest desires. So let's do a little review of these laws, and let's get into it. And I know, Marie, that you will, I'm sure, add and channel some deeper insights into what is on the paper in the way that you so beautifully do. So the first law that he discusses is the law of pure potentiality. And essentially, this law is talking about a field of energy, a field of pure potential. It is the silent realm from which all things flow, right? From which the unmanifest is made manifest. It's the state of pure consciousness, the pure knowledge, perfect balance, invincibility, and bliss that exists in the energy field out there, right? And so when accessing this field, we can experience our higher pure selves and are able to sort of let go of the ego. You know, we've talked about this a lot, so I know we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. But this energy field that we are moving in and talking in and co-creating in is very powerful. And when we can get into the flow of the energy, we can learn how to kind of use it to co-create a different reality. And even in my blog this month, I talk about one of the ways I talk about it with the men in prison is I talk about this. It's almost like when you imagine a fish in water, and you know, if you close your eyes and you imagine a fish swimming in this whole body of ocean, and water is flowing 24/7 through its gills, right? Where does the fish end and the water begin? You know, and it really doesn't. They are one. And we are the same with this field of pure potentiality. So the first law is really talking about the existence of this field, which we have talked a lot about with other authors, quantum physicists, you know.
Right. It's a wellspring of infinite potential to me. And it's a pure streaming consciousness that comes through us as a feeling. And so I love how Deepak Chopra describes, and that you, Lacy, describe this law of pure potentiality. And I think what I'm feeling from just that first law is that part of what we have to do to connect with that pure potentiality is to recognize the ego, which we've spent a lot of time talking about this past year, and the time eater that it is. It eats our time. It like takes up, and it's been all part of our journeying here. But I think it's important to recognize is that it is stuck and based in fear. And it's always going to be looking for the things it needs to avoid, deny, prevent, block, bully, whatever it has to do, because it's always afraid for its safety and its survival. And I think when we are tapping into these higher laws that Deepak Chopra is talking about, to me, he's inviting us into a state of consciousness that lives beyond the ego's efforts and its MO, right? We need to get beyond the methods that the ego uses every day to keep our focus stuck and trapped in that survival mechanism and all the conditioning that we've received through our lives, right? And so you have to recognize the ego, that's the part it's playing, in order to understand that you don't want to be a fish swimming in the ego's waters, right? You want to be a fish in your higher consciousness that understands the ego is a part of living that's a choice, but it's just one choice among infinite possibilities. And that pure potentiality is who we become when we can start to understand that the ego is a part of us, inside of us, that doesn't have to run us. And it's just in the recognition of that sometimes that can help people start to connect to that higher consciousness inside them.
Well, yes, and I think it's the recognition and the awareness is definitely the first step. And then, we can access this field of pure potentiality through meditation and often through silence, right? And then also through the practice of non-judgment and the appreciation of nature.
Right.
So this is a field in which we live, but we're often, as you say, really disconnected from this energy field. But we have every resource in ourselves to access that field. And a lot of times it requires us to get quiet. You know that better than anybody.
Well, it does. It requires practices that can support us and nourish us to appreciate the stillness and appreciate what can come through us when we do get quiet. That's when we access that, or just when we're in our talents in some way, where we're feeling who we are in some way. We're feeling the passion, we're feeling energy, and we're not just distracted and scurrying about and doing all kinds of 3D things, things in our lives that we feel like are just on a to-do list but lack a whole lot of meaning.
Yeah.
And so it's the recognition and the way in which we connect that recognition, Lacy, is the witness observer he's talking about, right? And the dreamer that manifests the dream, right? We have to learn how to be both. We are the dream and the dreamer, right? The dreamer manifests the dream by accessing this kind of consciousness inside themselves and recognizing the ego's input that wants to say, it can never work. You can never have that. That'll never be achieved. You'll never be good enough. All the things that the ego wants to do, we just recognize the ego for what it is this nervous Nelly in our lives that's always telling us how things can't work. But when we tap into that consciousness and we get still, in whatever way stillness looks like, stillness, Lacy, to some people could be hiking in the woods, which isn't necessarily stillness.
Well, it also could be painting. You brought up the idea of talents, and a lot of spiritual teachers and people in general, I think, feel that when they tap into their creativity, that creativity comes out of this field of potentiality.
Right. They're accessing another field of energy.
Exactly.
They're accessing another consciousness. So I just want to clarify for our listeners, getting quiet or getting still in some way long enough to hear that pure positive energy and that pure potentiality doesn't necessarily mean sitting in a meditative pose and not moving for an hour. People have to listen for where do they get their best ideas. I mean, I'm somebody who gets them in the shower.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily sitting and meditating, right? Right? I'm working with the element of water and conducting energy that way. And I've just learned to recognize when I seem most open to receive. And then I put myself sometimes, especially when I'm needing guidance or I'm needing to connect, I just
go take a shower.
Sure I go take a shower, right? I could be the cleanest person on this planet, right? That's for sure. But I access it other ways.
I often get mine while driving. So I've, which is interesting because I've always had some kind of commute in my life, whether I'm actually working or I have or I'm in my retirement and I've gone back to doing some part-time work. And, Interestingly enough, my part-time work is required just as long, if not longer, of a commute than when I was working in the federal system. So, and I think that's because the universe knows, and it's an energetic match, that's a time, that's my meditation time, is the driving.
Right.
And that's definitely when I feel I'm most open to receive. I get a lot of my better ideas when I'm driving. So
recognizing that in ourselves, and we invite you, if you're listening to this, to think about where do you just get into that open, serene, receptive space inside yourself. And it might surprise you when if you really actually think about it. Where do you get some of your best ideas, or where do you feel like you connect with spirit or connect with source or your guides, however you conceptualize that and whatever your language is. Sometimes we just have to be invited. When people say, how do we access that? You just need the language to give to yourself. I just have to recognize what I do naturally and then appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I just have to recognize it took you time to realize that you were getting the downloads in the car.
Yes.
That you were meditating and connecting to that higher field of consciousness when you were driving.
Yes.
I'm sure initially that you didn't recognize. You had to engage the pattern long enough to see it.
Yeah.
And the witness observer inside us is the one that teaches us about our ego, and it teaches us about our spirit.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that as we were doing this, that what I'd love to do, if you're open to that, Marie, is review the law.
Okay.
And then also review kind of how we can put it into practical effect in our life. And, we're going to need to do this with 7 laws. So let's move into to what we can commit to when it comes to tapping into the law of pure potentiality, or how do we put that into effect, right? And I would just say that by making a commitment to each day taking some time to get quiet. Now that doesn't, again, like you said, it doesn't have to be, in a meditative pose, cross-legged with a candle. It can be on a drive or in a shower, but you are making a commitment to recognize when you are most open and feel most connected. And you are making some time every day, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, to get into that space with yourself.
And it's kind of an appointment you make with yourself that you value, and you make sure you show up for that appointment, and you kind of get a reset. You reset in what's real, in that higher field of consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah, and if everybody would do that, really we're talking about minutes a day. If you just made a conscious intention and actually followed through on making that 5 minutes a day happen for you, I really believe people's lives would change, because it really sets the energetic tone of your day. It calls in what your consciousness wants to experience and how it wants to partner with the universal positive energies in the fields of universal energy. And so it's so important, and it's so easily overlooked.
Yeah.
Or devalued, thinking that 5 minutes can't change my life. Oh, but 5 minutes can change your life.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I can say that. I have had 5 minutes change the entire course of my life.
Yes.
And help heal a trauma that was so significant it seemed like there was no way out. But 5 minutes a day over 5 years of time changed my life. And so I do understand these deep spiritual laws.
Yes. Wow. And you're a staunch believer in that time, that quiet time, that silent time. Yeah. So the first way we can tap into the field of potentiality is through some silent time, right?
Yeah, just being.
Just being, exactly. A second commitment that we can make, or that our listeners can make, is to spend some time in nature and to really witness the intelligence within every living thing. So whether it's sitting and watching a sunset, or listening to the sound of the ocean or a stream, or smelling the scent of a flower, right? But we are communing with nature. We are connected to its intelligence, and we are honoring its brilliance and its perfection. And that is something that we can do to connect with this field, this larger field.
It's so interesting that you say that. We don't talk about that this much in our podcast, but at a point in our life, when our kids were younger, they were all into nature photography. They've since gotten into some other things and other passions and pursuits. But we actually framed a lot of their nature photography, and I have probably 20 of their photos framed in my office. And even though I can be inside, but I could be writing, and I'm surrounded by how they captured that essence of nature, which is the stillness and the divinity that we really are. And so there's so many creative ways that we can find the stillness and tap into that intelligence that lives in everyone and everything and in nature. Whether it's just a calendar that you have in your office, right, of just extraordinary photos. And it's so available to us on the internet. We can have a screensaver, however we do it.
Or we can walk out our back door. For some people can just walk out their back door and appreciate.
In their bare feet.
Yeah.
And put their feet on the ground and connect. And again, this doesn't, a lot of people in our busy world today are concerned with time. It could just be 5 minutes. You might take the trash out to the street in your bare feet and walk through the grass to do it.
That's beautiful.
Right? There's so many ways that we could but we need to value it. We do need to value it, and we do need to commit to it, or it doesn't become a new habit and a new way of being in our life.
Yeah.
It becomes something we dream about, but that we don't take the action steps to achieve. And at this point in our conversations at the end of 2019, we're talking about how you can make those action steps more accessible to you and more applicable.
Right.
Because we really want to take the action now.
Yeah.
Right? And action drops the knowledge down deeper, and it becomes who we are. Versus if all I did was read Deepak Chopra's insights but never apply them, I'd just be very well read. Right?
Right.
But I wouldn't be somebody who's living it and embodying it. So that word commitment, right? It's important that we value it and we commit to it. So that was the second one. And did you want to say the third?
The third one is so we've committed to silence. We've committed to communing with nature. And this is a really important one. I think we have to commit to practicing non-judgment. So we commit to beginning every day with a statement or something like, today I shall judge nothing that occurs. And throughout the day I will remind myself not to judge.
And I'd like to take that a little further, because that's stated in the negative about not judging. I will say, I will allow everyone their own experience, right? And I'm not saying I can live up to that every single day perfectly, but these are intentions that we commit to. It's a stillness and a place that we set our energy field for the day to attempt to action that intention throughout the day. And so however it appeals to our listeners to find that, I would recommend that not so much I won't judge, but really I'll embrace the opportunity to honor the divinity in all things and to allow other people their experience and to find peace, replace judgment with peace, or honoring another person's journey. And that's helpful, I think, because there's a lot of things that are ego. Remember, it's always scurrying about that nervous Nelly, looking for things that it can point out that other people are doing, so we don't have to look at ourselves and how afraid we are. And I think judgment is such an attraction in our world today because it makes us feel better because we haven't fully put into practice these spiritual laws that fulfill us. And so judgment can be one of those things that's just a very easy pattern and habit to get into.
Well, and it can cut us off from that field.
It cuts us off from the field. When we go into that space and our ego says, here, let me show you what we're going to see today.
Right.
Look at your day through your ego's eyes, right? And look at your day. Take another day of your week and see if you can set the intention to look through it soulfully. And you'll have two entirely different days. Right. Absolutely. And one connected to that field of pure positive energy and consciousness and inspiration, and one where you're just darting bullets. You're trying to avoid this and deny that and, evade something else. And so it's not a really beautiful place to be in. That's why nature's so glorious. That's why we take vacations.
Right.
We don't say, where's that ego center? I want to take that ego cruise so I can spend all day, every day talking about the 12 best habits of my ego. No, we go on cruises to get away from our ego, or we go on sailing trips or retreats or hikes in nature or whatever, kayaking, whatever calls us.
Right.
It's in an attempt to connect. So it's an attempt to connect.
Yeah.
These are very important applications of that first law.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful.
Yes.
Well expanded upon,
Yes.
as always. Okay, so let's move into our second law, which is the law of giving. So the law of giving talks about the fact that the universe operates through a dynamic exchange. Giving and receiving are different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe. And in our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. So this is really about, this law is about the law of exchange. There's energy that's
Fair
being
energy
exchanged
exchange.
between the field, the energy, the universe, and ourselves, right? And so it's so important to, Deepak Chopra talks about how important it is that our minds and our bodies are in a constant state of giving and receiving with the universe. So to create, to love, to grow, it keeps the flow going.
Right.
And when we don't give or we stop giving, it stops flow. And he analogizes it to blood. It's when blood
Life
stops
force.
flowing, it clots.
Right.
Right?
Wow.
And energy is very, very similar.
Right.
Your body is a dynamic and constant exchange with the universe. Your mind is dynamically interacting with the mind of the cosmos, and your energy is an expression of cosmic energy. Okay? So that's just a little bit of an elaboration on that. So clearly what he wants us to do and wants us to understand here is that we must continue to be in the energy of giving and receiving. Because of the dynamic exchange of how energy works.
Well, and what we call this entire existence that we live in, we call it creation, right? And creation is always inviting us and inspiring us to create. And when we're creating in the creation, we're moving energy. But the ego wants to stop us from creating and to block that process because what we create, it might have to deal with. So it's already worried about the outcome of our creation. But if we stay in that energy and that presence and that essence of giving is a form of creation, right? We're creating an energetic exchange.
Right.
And so that's very, very powerful. And like you said, how Deepak Chopra likens this process of giving, this law of giving, to blood, which is, I was saying, is life force flow.
Yes.
Right? It's literally the flow of life force and creation energies inside us. The whole universe is inside us, and it's flowing through our bloodstreams.
Yes.
Right?
And it's circulating.
It's circulating.
Right? And when we talk about, I guess one of the greatest examples of circulating energy in our world is money.
Right. Currency, which is a current.
Right.
Right? A flow.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's powerful. Well, I don't know if our listeners have heard this term, but when you combine money and energy, the hybridized term is monergy. And monergy is the energy of currency. And at this time on the planet, we use a fiat currency, right? Paper dollars for the most part. Regardless of what country you live in, you might trade in the US dollar, but you might have your own country's currency. But still, that is circulating throughout the globe in the world markets every single day.
Right.
Right? And so it is. It's just like that, our blood and our life force flow and the current, and we're electromagnetic beings.
Right.
And what we give out, we draw back in. And it's kind of, people in meditation, I haven't taken many meditation classes, but I know it's the in-breath and the out-breath, right? The receiving and the giving. The in and out of life.
What's so fascinating to me is what we're talking about is going on all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Right.
It is.
You can choose to participate in it and with it consciously and create with it and keep the flow consciously moving inside you as a living current of consciousness and monergy of consciousness, right? And life force of consciousness.
Right.
Or you can, choose to be, skeptical and not believe in these things, and it's okay. Life will always be your best teacher.
Yes.
So if this these are voices and this material doesn't resonate with you, you can ask for it to be shown a different way. I've definitely heard material from certain people that I didn't quite completely resonate with the way they were sharing the energy or the information. But I've known enough, because I'm awake in my life, to say, I need that to come another way. And I've seen it time and time again show up in even better teachers for me, and how I need to hear that flow of energy.
Right.
So, we're just introducing people to these concepts, and you can further explore this or find other people that you resonate with more. But you get to be that conscious participant in your life. It's like you get to turn up the dial and say, oh, I want to listen to that more. Or turn down the volume and the dial and say, I'm going to turn the volume down on that, but I want to listen to this over here. And that's all part of how we engage our lives, consciously or unconsciously. Whether you turn on it, choose a certain song, choose a certain, channel on TV to watch or to listen to. We're participating, but it is happening. I don't turn my TV on ever. I don't have cable anymore. So I think more and more people have done that over the last few years, but that's another example. 20 years ago, we all just had a cable bill, and it was a set of a certain number of channels, and all that was on all the time, right? Now I buy certain packages. I choose consciously certain things to stream into my experience, and I'm much more consciously choosing what I want from the buffet of creation, right? And I know we're talking about the law of giving, but the giving and receiving, we're exchanging that energy all the time.
Well, and I think, when you said, you talked about that our world is our greatest teacher, or our life is our greatest teacher. What I take from that, or what I immediately think about, is the fact that if you've been asleep to a lot of these concepts and unaware of a lot of these concepts, and you start to wake up to it, and you say, well, how do I know what I'm putting out there? How do I know what I'm giving and what I'm allowing in? And I would say to you, well, just look at your life. Just look at your world, because your physical and this is what Deepak's talking about, the physical manifestation of things in your life.
Right.
They are manifesting out of your dynamic exchange with the universe, whether you're aware of it or not.
Right.
So how things show up in your life or don't show up in your life is indicative of how you are interacting with that field of potentiality.
It's the mirror of
it is
life.
Absolutely the mirror.
That life is.
Yeah.
And if you just start looking at the quality of your experiences and your relationships, and the things that unfold in your day. Just take one 24-hour period and notice those things.
Who comes in your experience and who doesn't,
Right, and you'll see themes and patterns. If you string 2 or 3 or 4 days or a week together, you'll start noticing things that perhaps you weren't seeing before.
Right.
Because you're becoming a better witness observer in your life, and you're tapping into a higher field of consciousness. Just engaging the witness observer and being willing to have that in your consciousness changes your life, because you start paying attention to that law of giving even, and the law of flow in your life.
Right.
Is my life flowing, or am I stagnant? Am I stuck?
Right.
Right? Am I in the same rut of patterns? Am I still hanging out with the same people? And it doesn't matter if it was 2 decades ago or today. We're the same people.
Right.
Right? We're actually meant to be expanding and growing. And so you'd expect your relationships to grow, but sometimes we get so comfortable with the ones we have, we don't even think to change them. And of course, our ego would say, "Don't change a thing, because I'm managing barely, as I am." So if you add anything else, it's going to upset the whole apple cart. The ego is all about trying to make sure that you don't grow, because it's afraid its job is going to get bigger and it's struggling with what it has.
Yeah.
So the law of giving, can you just feel the energy of, like I just described the ego and how nervous Nelly it is? But our universal consciousness self, our higher self, our soul self, our presence inside us knows that there's an abundance of everything we need.
Right.
Right? Nature doesn't worry. Like the trees aren't sitting there concerned. Even in drought conditions, trees know how to trust and to tune into their energy and to connect with other trees. Other conversations, we could have a whole podcast on just tree consciousness. But in the law of giving, We have to be able to tap into that flow. So did you want to talk about the things we'd commit to?
Yeah, I wanted to just sort of wrap up that law by just saying that, Deepak says it, you've said it in here already, that the more you give, the more you will receive.
Yes.
Right? Because you will keep the abundance of the universe circulating in your life.
And so people who tend to be tighter with even their monergy, with their money,
right,
and they don't share it and give it, right. And I can say, as a college student that's had some college debt and some other life experiences, right, the ego's conditioned us to say we have to hold on tightly to what we have because we just might not get any more. But that higher field of consciousness knows that there's an abundance, and it's infinite. It's infinite abundance. So if you give it and share it, and you tap into this life force flow, and you understand that there's blessings in everything you give that are coming back to you and blessing everybody else, it becomes easier and easier to loosen up and to give and be generous and have that giving, generous, flowing nature.
Well, and our commitment that we can make to ourselves regarding the law of giving. Number one, wherever I go and whomever I encounter, I will bring them a gift. The gift may be a compliment, a flower, or a prayer. Today I will give something to everyone I come into contact with, and so I will begin the process of circulating joy, wealth, and affluence in my life and in the lives of others. And I want to say that I just want to let our listeners know that these steps to putting these laws into effect are in the 7 spiritual laws.
Oh, it's coming from the book.
It's coming from the book. So I just want to make sure our listeners know that. So if they want to review, it is in the book.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But the first one is basically saying, just that I'm committing to bring something, to give something to everybody I encounter in a given day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to just say this and pop this in here to the law of giving. It just reminds me of Flower Diamond, and we had a podcast with her last month in our Global Spotlight podcast. Our listeners can find that, or I could put a link in the description section. But she gives a poem. Yeah. To everyone she meets, she gives a poem. So beautiful. About them, right? As a gift. What an incredible energy exchange. It is. Yep. It is amazing.
So our second commitment is that I will gratefully receive gifts that life has to offer me. So in our first one, we are giving, and in our second one, we are receiving. I will receive the gifts of nature, sunlight, the sounds of birds singing or spring showers or the first snow of winter. I will also be open to receiving from others, whether it be in the form of a material gift, money, a compliment, or prayer.
I feel that every day when I share the transmissions that I bring through as an intuitive for my monthly blogs posts, and they go out and they touch a lot of people's lives now. And that number is growing and increasing because I've been giving, and I just love participating in the giving of it. And the receiving I am blessed with by the universe are all the beautiful comments and the connections that I get to have with so many people from around the world. It's really fabulous. And the love that we share.
It is amazing.
We've never met, but we meet in the energy of the gift. We meet in the energy of the gift. It's so beautiful. It really is. And the gift is me sharing what comes through me. Just like Flower shares her poems, it's the same. It's a currency. It's a current of energy, and it's a transmission that comes through. It's that creativity
that comes out of the field of potentiality.
Exactly. Right. And then in the exchange, people give back to me 1,000-fold with so much love and appreciation and so much pure positive energy. And we become a field of consciousness that anybody who wants to tap into can experience that. So I know this very well. Yes, but I have to say also, it is the thing that a lot of people on this planet today have to work on the most. Because a lot of people are really good at giving, but some of us find it very hard to receive. It's an art form. It's an art form.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a certain kind of grace that when you start to understand that the universe wants to give back to you, but this life has been hard for many of us. And maybe receiving, I'm not quite sure what it is just we feel like we need to push it away, either we're not deserving, or I'm not sure how people deflect that. Or relying on other people, all the thought forms that our ego will filter that receiving process in our head and push it away. I just want to note, if you're somebody who says, I know that, and I consciously know about receiving, and I want to receiving, just keep practicing. I mean, all these things are things that we just commit to, and we practice again and again and again, and we get better and better about it. And I can say in my own journey, it's become so much easier to receive. And once you get into the blessing of receiving and you really start embracing it, it's so fabulous. It just becomes a fountain in your life, right? Where the water comes up and gives and it returns to itself. It comes up and it returns to itself.
Yes.
So
yes,
yeah,
beautiful. And I've been a witness to that in your life for a long time now, and it's always just miraculous to me and so inspiring.
It is.
So our third commitment to the law of giving and receiving, and this is probably one that I feel that for me can be perhaps the most challenging, is I will make a commitment to keep wealth circulating in my life by giving and receiving life's most precious gifts, the gifts of caring, affection, appreciation, and love. And each time I meet someone, I will silently wish them happiness, joy, and laughter. And actually, I said it's the most challenging for me. That's actually not the challenging part. I actually thought they were going to talk about money. Because it's really important I'm learning that even if I don't have a ton of money in my bank account,
right,
that should not stop me. And in fact, it's even more important for me to be giving. So whether it's donating, whether it's donating money,
it's an energy.
it's donating
the universe
time.
Doesn't know if it's $1 or $10 or $50,000, or whether it's a cake,
right,
or whether it's a soup for somebody you know isn't feeling well.
Right.
The universe doesn't know and care really what that exact material item is.
Right.
It feels the energy and the spirit of giving inside you, and then says, oh, we've got to return. We've got to make that return process. She needs more soup. She needs more right. Energy, right? Whatever it is.
So what's more important is the giving of appreciation, the giving of love, the giving of caring, things like that I will commit to do that. So we need to definitely move on to our third law, which is the law of karma.
Okay.
Or the law of cause and effect. Okay. So every action generates a force of energy that returns to us in like kind. What we sow, we reap. And when we choose actions that bring happiness and success to others, the fruit of our karma is happiness and success. Right. So I don't know that we have to go too in depth into this one, because it is one that I think many people are familiar with, at least on the surface. Mm-hmm. This concept of what we sow, we reap, what we put out, we get back, right?
And in this world, it's one of the greatest teachers. Remember I said life will teach you, life will be your teacher?
Yes.
It's really karma will be your teacher and your mirror to help you learn.
Right.
To help
exactly.
you learn.
He says that it is cause and effect simultaneously, because every action generates a force of energy that returns to us in like kind. There is nothing unfamiliar about the law of karma, right? Everybody's heard these expressions.
Yeah.
And this speaks to the law of attraction as well. It's sort of, what we're vibrating in our energy field and what we're putting out is what's coming back to us in our experience. So that's sort of the more quantum physics basis
where
for
your attention goes, energy flows.
Right.
It's all that same similar frequency and energy.
Right. Mm-hmm. So maybe we want to go right into talking about what we can do to put the law of karma into effect.
That's right.
So the first one we'll talk about is, today I will witness the choices I make in each moment. And in the mere witnessing of these choices, I will bring them to my conscious awareness. I will know that the best way to prepare for any moment in the future is to be fully conscious in the present. So by staying in the present moment and making conscious choices, we are honoring and recognizing that our vibration is so important, that what we're putting out, what we're thinking about, what we're choosing has an energy, right? And that energy is going to go out and impact the field.
Right, which is the most important thing.
Correct.
And that's why they say that the present is a gift.
Right.
Right. It is the gift to be present, and that's where our point of power is. The reason the ego is always scurrying around is because it's never in the present. It's always trying to avoid the future, some terrible catastrophe in the future, or it's rehashing the past. The ego doesn't live in the present. The soul, the spirit does. So when we can quiet our minds and quiet the busy world around us, and we can take those few minutes every day and commit, right, to witness the choices we're making in every moment.
Right.
We're committing to the present tense, which right there neutralizes some of the ego, because it can't really find a way into that place. It's going to try and distract, but it doesn't know how to meet you in the present moment because it doesn't live there. Right? That's not its house.
Right.
Right?
Wow.
So it's running circles around that house.
Yeah.
But it's not inside the house. So it's really beautiful.
Well, and it speaks to our second commitment, which says that whenever I make a choice, I will ask myself two questions. What are the consequences of this choice that I am making? And will this choice bring fulfillment and happiness to me and also to those who are affected by this choice?
Wow, what a different world we live in. If people were really listening to these 7 spiritual laws of success, right? And so we would show up differently if we thought about our choices and we really felt and cared and valued, right, the consequences of that choice, the potential choice, right, and how it might impact others and the whole world, right? You know, people wouldn't litter.
Well, I just think about the contrast, the contrasting energy to what you just said is just witnessing on the highway how many people could have no awareness of the cars around them, the people around them, what's going on around them, and they're zooming in and out of lanes. And that's the energy I picture of people who are walking through life really unaware of the choices that they're making. And disconnected.
And armored up, right? They're still in their armor and they're just completely unaware, oblivious, or really not caring about other people's experience. And it just shows you, at some point, life will be their teacher and there will be a summoning to a greater connection. And that's what we all know to be true. The hero's journey comes to all of us. Yeah. And so when you can see people like that, and remember that whatever the other spiritual law was, I'm forgetting its name now, but where we don't judge others, right? And we get into that place of stillness. As long as we're safe on the road, we can really also just let that person who's driving that way have their experience. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the third and final commitment to the law of karma talks about asking our heart for guidance and being guided by feelings of comfort or discomfort. So if the choice we're looking to make feels comfortable, we commit to plunge ahead with abandon. And if the choice feels uncomfortable, we will pause and we will see the consequences of our actions with our inner vision. This guidance will enable us to make spontaneously correct choices for ourselves and for all those around us.
Well, and to me, which we haven't talked much about, that's the sign of emotional intelligence, right? That's the EQ versus IQ in our world today.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Karma is a big teacher about that. When we're listening to that law of karma and we're putting that into practice, we're listening, is this a good idea? Is this a positive choice that's going to, uplift me and the people around me and the environment around me, right? Is this going to bless the world or not bless the world? Is this going to increase my energy or bless my energy, or is it going to pull away from my energy and other people's energy?
Right.
So that's a big one. That's a big one. And we play with that our whole lives long.
lifetimes.
All of these principles, you don't necessarily, it's not once and done.
Right.
That's not the spiritual path. It's a journey.
Yeah.
You're not getting to one place.
Right.
The minute you get to one place, there's another place. So the more we can learn that it's a journey and it's a path that we take, and it's a growing of our soul and our soul's awareness. When we can really start to value that, then we're not rushing through anything, and we are in the present moment, and we appreciate the opportunity to grow and to learn and to express ourselves and be creative in every moment. That's the gift.
So the fourth law, we're going to move into the fourth law, which is the law of least effort. Okay, and this says that nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease, with carefreeness, harmony, and love. And when we harness the forces of harmony, joy, and love, we create success and good fortune with effortless ease. So this is also probably one of the more complicated laws to kind of break down. So I will just elaborate here for a minute. That Chopra, he suggests that when our actions are motivated by love and not the desires of the ego, which you have already talked about, we generate excess energy that can be used to create anything we want. But in contrast, seeking power over others or trying to get their approval consumes a lot of energy. We're trying to prove something, whereas if we're acting from the higher self, we simply make choices about how and where we will affect evolution and bring abundance. And the first step in practicing this is acceptance, right? We can't hope to channel the universe's effortless power if we're fighting against it. So the idea is that by doing less, we can accomplish more. I think that kind of sums it up a little bit. By doing less, we can accomplish more.
Well, when we're in that field of energy that's that universal consciousness, we don't have to effort.
Right.
We're just one with that, and it's moving us, right? That life force flow is moving us in our lives. But when we're not connected to that stream of positive energy, we have to work hard, and we have to strategize, and we have to plot, and we have to, all the things that we do to effort in our lives. And I kind of liken how this is described as the salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah.
Although that is something that salmon do. I don't really want to be a salmon. And that was a metaphor for me in much of my educational pursuits. Like I was definitely somebody who was, achieving the next level and getting that next grade and, succeeding in school and whatever certain honors that you graduate with and that first job and all those things. And people can liken that to their pursuit of positioning in their work environments and the jobs and roles and management that they want to get to, that level of their career success, right? That is coming from a different place than the law of least effort. If we just enjoyed our way into living our best life, that's not what most people do, is it?
Well, it's not what we're conditioned.
It isn't our
we're just not.
conditioning.
Our conditioning is you got to work. Things are hard. You push through, right? And I have to say it does require a certain level of trust. It does require a certain level of surrendering, right, to this bigger notion, this larger view. And acceptance of what is.
Right.
Surrendering, accepting.
That prayer, I think I heard this one time from probably some of the my guides that mentor me, right? Is that my life is perfect. And people might think, well, that's not a prayer. That doesn't mean anything. When you really open to understanding that the universe is abundant and everything's lining up perfectly, and your day, no matter what's happening, somehow there is a perfection inside it, and you don't judge the good or the bad. It doesn't have to be only good experiences are good, right? Even challenges and what we might call bad experiences can be good. And when we accept it all, that we're a part of the whole thing, right? The whole soul, school, and foundation, right? When you're part of the whole of it.
Right.
The yin and the yang. And I think we're going to move into the commitment that we make to put this law of least effort into effect in our lives, right, Lacy?
Well, and it's exactly what you were just saying. And I think the commitment to ourselves is, number one, that we're going to practice acceptance, right? That we're going to practice accepting people, situations, circumstances, and events, right? We're going to accept everything as total and complete. We're going to accept things as they are in this moment, not as I wish they were. You know, and that could be elaborated on, but in the interest of time, I think we'll leave that. But it's acceptance.
But that's that present moment is a gift.
Yes.
And the ego would be thinking about what they woulda, coulda, shoulda, or might have been.
Right.
But the soul self, the presence inside us that knows the gift, is that we can accept what they are in the moment.
Yeah. So number 1 is acceptance. 2, I will take responsibility for my situation and for all those events in my life. So I know that taking responsibility means not blaming anyone or anything. I know that every problem is an opportunity in disguise. And I have an alertness to opportunities, which allows me to take this moment and transform it into greater benefit, right? And then number 3, today my awareness will remain established in defenselessness. I will relinquish the need to defend my point of view. I will feel no need to convince or persuade others to accept my point of view. I will remain open to all points of view and not rigidly attached to them. I don't know about you.
Oh, that's the one that rings home for me that I think I still work with. And, I definitely see the earlier versions of me in my journey. You know, the me in my 20s and my early 30s, and I'm in my late 40s now. You know, it's been a few decades of learning this particular law and my commitment to it.
Well, I think that I think we could have spent an entire podcast on just that third commitment, right?
Yeah.
So we realize that that our time is running out. So let's go through these last couple.
The last 2.
So number 5, the law of intention and desire. Inherent in every intention and desire is the mechanics for its fulfillment. Intention and desire is the field of pure potentiality, have infinite organizing power. And when we introduce an intention in the fertile ground of pure potentiality, we put this infinite organizing power to work for us. So again, I think this law speaks to this dynamic between us and the universe, us and the field of pure potentiality,
Right.
and the concept of intention.
Yes.
It's not just wanting something or desiring something or wishing something, but there's an energy around the word intention that I think is slightly different.
I see intention as a connection. You become one with that thing, that essence, that energy, whatever it is that you're intending about, if it's a tangible item or an intangible. And that's a long journey. I mean, that's quite a journey to get to that place where you understand that you're connecting with your dream. You are already connected and one with it. And if we start with an intention, it feels far away from us, like impossible or difficult to achieve or whatever. The more you can connect with feeling, already having a relationship, a partnership, a union with whatever that is, the more you shrink that divide inside yourself. And that's when we really start to manifest our things, the things we desire come more into our experience, and manifest more into our lives when we connect with that energy of intention as a connection with what we dream and desire. That we're already connected with it.
Yes.
And I think that's, a lot of the people in The Secret and the other films that we've talked about over the course of this year was taught us to some degree to feel like you already have it. I think that phrase, feeling like you already have it, was harder for me than realizing that my intention was a connection. And so however people connect with it, if they can connect with that feeling of already having it in their house, if they want a new couch, and they can already see it, feel it, know it, touch it, right? Sleep on it, right? If you can really get into the feeling of already having it, it's already there. And especially if you're a very visual person, that can really work. For me, I think that's how intention works. Maybe for visual people, they can do that. And for people who feel their world more, I think connection is another option for making this connection inside us, a connection
Yes.
with the connection.
Well, it's a connection inside of us, and it's a connection with the field of pure potentiality that is moving through us. And so setting our intention and claiming our desires is a really important way that we communicate with the field of potentiality. So
Right.
in our commitment
Right.
to put this law into effect in our own lives, we can, number one, we can make a list of our desires. We can carry the list with us wherever we go. We will look at the list. We will visualize in silence and meditation, right? We will look at it before we go to sleep, and we will look at it when we wake up in the morning. And by doing all of these things, we are setting an intention. We are communicating with the universe. These are the things, or these are the people, or these are the relationships, or these are the material objects, or these are the feelings that I want to feel in my life.
We're walking with the energies that we desire to experience all day long.
Right.
When we're doing that.
Right.
And the key is learning not to push against it or force it or have agendas about it. And that takes some time. That takes some practice.
That speaks totally to the second one, which is essentially that we're going to surrender. Now that we've got this list of desires, right? We're going to surrender it to the womb of creation. We're going to surrender it to the field of pure potentiality.
And we're going to trust that when things don't seem to go our way, right? There's a reason, and that there's a larger cosmic plan that has designs for me, which are far greater and grander than even those I've conceived.
Yes.
Right? That I was intending.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I love that to tack onto any intention, this or something better. Remember that, Lacy? In the very beginning, we learned that phrase and we thought, this or something better. That's 4 words, right? A lot of syllables, but it's 4 words.
Yeah.
But it's a life changer.
Yeah.
It's really a dream changer, because you can realize that even your dream, as grand as it could be small compared to the universe's vision for what that could be.
Yes. And number 3, I will remind myself to practice present moment awareness, which is what you've brought up several times.
Yes.
I will accept the present as it is and manifest the future through my deepest, most cherished intentions and desires.
Yes.
So we can appreciate our present,
Yes.
right? The gift that it is.
Right.
We can appreciate everyone and everything in our life, but we can also be manifesting our future through these intentions and desires that we are communicating to the universe. Right?
We're seeding our future, like growing as a garden.
Right.
We're seeding our future with our intentions today.
Perfect.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And then we have the law of detachment. In detachment lies the wisdom of uncertainty. In the wisdom of uncertainty lies the freedom from our past, from the known, which is the prison of past conditioning. And in our willingness to step into the unknown, the field of all possibilities, we surrender ourselves to the creative mind that orchestrates the dance of the universe. So let me just really kind of take a deep dive into that for a minute. In detachment lies the wisdom of uncertainty. And in the wisdom of uncertainty lies the freedom from our past, from the known, which is the prison of past conditioning. I just felt like that bared a second reading there. Because it's a pretty intense concept in some ways.
Yeah.
But so true.
Right, it is.
The concept of detachment is another entire podcast unto itself.
It is. I mean, it could be 2020. This could be forecasting and seeding 2020's shows and conversations, because all of these can have a much deeper conversation, and they're all tools and skills that we uncover in the process of becoming ourselves again.
Yeah.
Of becoming our best selves again. That's why we come to this planet, to learn and grow about what we already are. But we have all these experiences, and attachment is the mentor of our lives until we learn the gift of detachment, right? Because our attachments will teach us over and over the wounds, the disappointments, the agendas, all the things that the ego will do to push at life, to push it through. because that's why the ego is so tired and so nervous, because it just doesn't want another job. That's why it doesn't want us to do anything, because it's afraid, because its job will only get bigger. So attachments, invite our ego into our lives in the biggest way, because it's going to just get louder. But when we're detached, the ego doesn't have to work as hard. That's one of the few win-wins. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a win-win for our spirit and our ego when we relax and we let go of a lot of our attachments, because the ego doesn't have to defend.
Right.
And the soul gets to be what it is.
Right.
Right? And it gets to trust. And in that place of detachment, we're really in that present moment, trusting the perfection, trusting that everything's lining up as it should be. We're not judging. And when we're free from all those other egoic behaviors, right, we're sovereign inside ourselves, and we're in more joy, and we have more life force that can flow to give and to be in that pulse of life, the giving and the receiving, the in-breath and the out-breath. And so it's really powerful. And so detachment seems directly connected with our ability to feel free in our lives.
Well, and I always love how you verbalize things, because you do always verbalize them in the affirmative, in the positive. When we talk about these commitments, they're framed a little bit differently, but I think it will resonate with people, because it helps people see where they're too attached or where they need to detach.
Right. Exactly.
So our first commitment is, today I will commit myself to detachment. I will allow myself and those around me the freedom to be who they are, as they are. I will not rigidly impose my idea of how things should be. I will not force solutions on problems, thereby creating new problems. I will participate in everything with detached involvement. That's quite a commitment.
It is quite a commitment.
And we're tested every day, all the time, in every aspect of our life. So
particularly parenting. I can speak as a parent.
100%.
This still needs some attention in my inner life. I will put that on my list of things to continue to consciously learn about. But I think all of us in our lives today, we live in a culture of conditions, right? Who are forcing solutions, pushing solutions, trying to control our lives versus being in that ease and flow. Ease and flow.
Absolutely. Number 2, I really like this one. Today, I will factor in uncertainty as an essential ingredient of my experience.
Wow.
Right? In my willingness to accept uncertainty, solutions will spontaneously emerge out of the problem, out of the confusion, disorder, or chaos. Right? So through the wisdom of uncertainty, I will find security.
Well, and it says, the more uncertain things seem to be, the more secure I will feel, because uncertainty is my path to freedom. Through the wisdom of uncertainty, I will find my security. And it reminds me of Jeff Jones, who was on our podcast for Transformation Talks back in September. And I loved how he said his wisdom and guidance came through as saying the same thing, Lacy, but I will practice my fear. I will practice my fear, right? That's the same as I will factor in uncertainty as an essential ingredient of my experience and of my growth. So, and the third, I just want to say quickly, because this could run long, but it's important. I will step into the field of all possibilities and anticipate the excitement that can occur when I remain open to an infinity of choices. When I step into the field of all possibilities, I will experience all the fun, adventure, magic, and mystery of life. And I have to say, you as a listener can feel yourself and say, oh, that's me. Oh, I have that to work on. Or, oh, I've mastered some of that. I definitely am somebody who loves infinite possibilities. I like options. I like choice. And then there's other areas of that same law. You can see where we have mastered some things and we need to grow in some other areas. And so, the freedom of the detachment and all of those things that are described here. We want the freedom, we want the magic, but you have to do the work. You've got to go through the journey and embrace the uncertainty to access that magic and that joy.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So our final law number 7, is the law of dharma, or purpose in life. So and again, I think this could be my favorite. Everyone has a purpose in life, a unique gift or special talent to give others. And when we blend this unique talent with service to others, we experience the ecstasy and exaltation of our own spirit, which is the ultimate goal of all goals. And I know you especially are all about creativity and talent and purpose.
So that's the law of Dharma?
That's it. Yeah, you've been preaching the law of Dharma all this time. And
But I like it. And that's who I am. And it's something that I think is a life force that flows through me bigger than any stream of consciousness. That's it. That's the one. And what did it say? Tell me again.
Okay.
It was the goal of all goals or something.
Well, everyone has a purpose in life, a unique gift or special talent to give to others. And when we blend this unique talent with our service to others, we experience the ecstasy and exaltation of our own spirit, which is the ultimate goal of all goals. You know, when I read that, well, you know, you and I are doing this right now in our lives. You know, when you bring these messages from spirit, from the universe, and you share them globally, you know, the reaction that you get from people and the impact it has on people's lives is just tremendous. It's a tremendous service.
It is a tremendous service.
You know,
the resonance, exactly.
And it's your passion. And I think about when my passion really, it's taken me a while to understand that my passion and talent is really in teaching. More so than even coaching or therapizing or anything like that. You know, it's really teaching. Is in teaching. And it's when I'm standing up in front of a whiteboard that I start to really channel some pretty powerful concepts for other people. And I know that when I tap into my talent there, I am absolutely interacting with that field of pure potentiality.
And it's true. And I think Joseph Campbell summed it up in those 3 words in his Follow Your Bliss.
Right.
And I think it could take a lifetime to unpack that phrase.
Yeah.
And what does that actually mean? And I've heard that for many, many years, follow your bliss.
Right.
But I can tell you there are a lot of people who don't know what that means in their life today. And that's an invitation then.
Yeah.
If you're unsure or if you're somewhere in that path, keep going.
Yes.
Just keep going. And you, who's played a lot of different roles in the things, you've been an athletic coach, you've been a psychologist in the prison system, you're trained as a life coach now, right? There's many things that you have as tools and skills that you could use. But what sums it all the best, that helps you share your talents the best in the world. And this law of Dharma, I'm going to spend some time with that just because I think it's an old friend.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know a lot about, but I didn't ever have it languaged that way. We are following our bliss, and that's our greatest service to the world. So I want to talk about these 3 commitments of the law of Dharma that we can put into effect in our lives. One is, today I will lovingly nurture the God or goddess in embryo that lies deep within my soul. That's a beautiful, beautiful, energetic statement. I will pay attention to the spirit within me that animates both my body and my mind. I will awaken myself to this deep stillness within my heart. I will carry the consciousness of timeless, eternal being in the midst of time-bound experience. So when we're running to our kids' games and we have to run to the grocery store and we have to hurry up and pay that bill and we have to race home and feed the dog, you know, all those things of a time-bound world of conditions and schedules and to-do lists, we can still lovingly nurture that part of us inside, right? That is that timeless, eternal nature that's in our soul.
So our second one is I will make a list of my unique talents. Then I will list all the things that I love to do while expressing my unique talents. When I express my unique talents and use them in the service of humanity, I lose track of time and create abundance in my life as well as in the lives of others. So true. You know, when we're doing something we love, we lose time. We lose track of time. Time doesn't matter.
Step outside of time.
You step outside of time. Right? And really, ultimately, that's what we want to do all the time, is we want to do what we love.
And the reverse is true. If you're somehow in a situation or circumstance in your life or a job, maybe,
right,
and an hour feels like a year, that's an indication
Right.
to you that somehow how you're living that experience is not lined up with your talents. It's not the best use of your talents. And that's just an invitation to keep asking yourself, what is the best use of my talents? Where am I best suited to bring my service and my gifts and my passions into the world?
Well, and that's number 3, which is I will ask myself daily, how can I serve and how can I help? The answers to these questions will allow me to help and serve my fellow human beings with love.
And I just don't think there's any greater bliss and meaning in our lives when we're on purpose, when we're tapped into that universal life flow, when we're detached from outcome, and we let other people be who they are, right? And we embrace that kind of freedom and sovereignty and creative energy inside ourselves. And we get into that place of wanting to bring all that together and serve and give into the universal field of energy that's here, right? So I want to thank you, Lacy, for being with me today.
Thank you so much. It's always such an awesome honor and pleasure to have these conversations with you.
Thank you for joining me. I want to thank our audience for being part of this conversation with us here at Whole Soul School and Foundation. This is the first Fireside Chats for December 2019, and we're going to have our second Fireside Chat that will be released on the 20th of this month. We're going to be spotlighting a film by Open Hand called The 5 Gateways. It's another phenomenal film that really talks about these stages of higher consciousness and living in this higher consciousness in the world today. So the more we can see these mirrored reflections of the journey as we step into that journey, or if you're already on the path, as you step further and deeper in the journey, inside yourself, inside your soul skills and your passions and your life force and flow. It's helpful to have these films and these books and these teachers and even music and different ways that you nourish yourself to keep going in the journey. So we thank you for joining us this year at Whole Soul School and Foundation. If you're just hearing us for the first time, you can go back into the archives and you can walk through these stepping stones into the fog of your own uncertainty. We've laid the groundwork for at least the first initial steps and insights of what the journey is as we move from a human being just having a few spiritual experiences while we're here to a spiritual being having human experiences to expand the spirit, to expand the soul in all of us. That's truly that upside down world that we're resetting and turning right side up. So thank you for joining us in today's conversation. You check out Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And we will see you in our next Fireside Chats podcast talking about the 5 gateways. We will be releasing a Sue Wells Mind, Body, Spirit podcast that I had a conversation with her. And we were talking all about dreaming and imagining and manifesting our lives in December 2019 and sowing the seeds of energies that we are actually really truly now planting to experience in 2020, which is the beginning of a new year and a beginning of an entirely new decade. So join us for that podcast that should be releasing within the next week to 10 days. And there will be a transformation talks that Lacy will have. So thank you for joining us. Please go to wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org and sign up to subscribe to receive our notifications. Join us on our YouTube channel at Whole Soul School and Foundation. You can find us on Facebook and all the social media outlets. We try and post everything everywhere as much as we can. And please, if you feel called, make a monthly donation, to make a one-time donation or a sustainer monthly donation to the nonprofit, to wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org. Your donations are tax deductible. It is December. It's getting to be the end of 2019. So if you are somebody that has the resources to make a donation to help us continue this work in the new year and expand to reach more people whose lives have been impacted by a physical and literal incarceration, it would really help us to do more things and bring more of these resources resources and tools to more people. So think of us in your donations towards the end of the year and this whole month through. And we wish you a very happy holiday season. So thank you and have a fabulous day, everyone. Blessings.